Anyways, choose your battles. Next point
is what we're saying.
Yes.
Coming back to this because this is a whole thing for me.
Maybe we'll get a professional house cleaner in here to help us.
If y'all start following us, we could get professional house cleaners and organizers with all those bins and labels.
Yes. I'd like to do so much joy. Anyways, next topic. You can tell we've been in a bottle of wine. Honesty is the best policy.
That's a great point. All right, let's just run through out loud. Okay. All right. Welcome to The Village, the heartwarming and insightful podcast where two incredible moms come together to share their journey of navigating life, love, and the intricate art of blending families. Join us as we dive into the joys, challenges, and unique experiences that arise when two families become one. Hosted by Kayla.
That's me. And hosted by Megan.
That's me.
The Village offers a genuine and relatable space where we share our personal stories, triumphs, and lessons learned on the path of creating a harmonious and loving blended family. Whether you're a stepmom,
Bonus mom,
a birth mom, or simply someone interested in the beautiful chaos of family dynamics, this podcast is for you.
Each episode is a heartfelt conversation that covers a wide range of topics, from the everyday moments that bring laughter and tears to the more complex discussions surrounding co-parenting, step-sibling relationships, and building a strong foundation of love and trust. We openly explore the challenges we've faced, the strategies we've employed, and the unexpected joys that have come our way.
The Village isn't just about blending families. It's about the power of friendship, support, and sharing the journey with someone who understands. Tune in as we swap stories, offer practical advice, and invite experts to weigh in on subjects like effective communication, managing expectations, and nurturing connections in a modern blended family.
Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a sense of community, The Village is here to remind you that you're never alone on this incredible journey. Subscribe now to join our community of fellow moms and let's mom together through the ups and downs, creating a tapestry of love and unity one episode at a time.
I mean, after all, it takes a village.
Oh yeah, and by the way, her ex-husband is my current husband.
Oh, we're recording.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes. Hey, y'all.
Hey, guys. We're back. Our last February episode for, I was going to say this month, obviously, February.
It's last February episode, so.
Yes, last February episode. We are going to dive into communication today.
Yeah.
A little more specifically related to like relationships. So our spouses or significant others and that whole process and how we deal with it. And then maybe some like how we've learned like not to do things versus how to do things.
Yep, I can speak to that for sure.
We've learned and we've grown. Okay,
We're old folks now. We've been around the block a time or two.
But before we get started, we want to make sure we tell you guys about our awesome sponsor, Brooke Roden.
Oh, I love Brooke.
She's a realtor here in Jacksonville, Florida. She's with Remy Realty. You can find her on Instagram and Facebook.
Yep.
She would love to help you guys find your next home. Start looking now so you can maybe be in it next February. One of the really cool things about Brooke, though, is she always puts her, just left me, integrity before her commission.
Yes. Brooke's amazing. If you need any realtor for any house hunting needs, I think the market's kind of leveraging out here a little bit. So if you've kind of been waiting for that time to jump, now would be a great time, and we encourage you to reach out to Brooke Roden Realtor. You can find her on Instagram or Facebook. We'll drop her tag here at the bottom, but that's Brooke Roden Realtor with Remy Realty.
Yep. And I would assume even if you're not looking to buy now, she could probably give you information for if you're looking for in the next couple months in the future, kind of point you in the right direction, get you some information about what you need to do to be ready.
Yeah.
So definitely reach out to her for anything you guys need.
Well, and I know that's a great point because Brooke always puts her integrity before her commission. So I think that's a great point to put out there for any assistance and either any future home buying needs.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, we're going to dive into communication. So I think we're going to talk a little bit first about how we communicate, I guess with our current spouses, right?
Yeah.
How we handle situations.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like you and Steven handle things currently?
Steven and I think this is one attribute that I think is really helpful in our relationship. Steven and I communicate pretty well. We talk about everything. I consider Steven probably one of my best friends. He tells me things that I do or do not really want to hear at times. The only advice I don't take from him is my fashion advice, because sometimes I think stuff's really cool and other times he's like, no. So, but when it comes to communication, I think Steven and I, we do well. I'm not going to boast. We're not perfect. We have arguments, like I think everybody does, but I think compared to my previous relationship, our arguments are really far few in between.
And they don't like amplify, right?
We've had a few.
Well, healthily amplify, maybe.
Yes. So Steven and I have had a few.
My sweater's killing me. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
It's like choking me. But
a few predicaments where things get a little escalated. Honestly, though, it's I'll be honest, it's either an alcohol-related situation where just your emotions are amplified when you're, drunk off of a late night.
You're tired,
etc. Yeah. Or like it's just one of those where maybe someone said a curt comment. You catch the person at the wrong time, and we'll go into that a little bit later, but things just kind of amplify. Steven and I are the ones who we go to sleep. We'll talk about this tomorrow.
Yep.
Some things just kind of come to light that next day. You've had some time to rest. You've had some time to grab your coffee and some breakfast, and you kind of really think on it yourself. And then either a text comes while either one of us are at work and just say, hey, like, my bad, or I shouldn't have reacted that way. I was just sensitive, and you caught me just at the wrong time, and things of that sort. What about you and Dan?
Similarly, I think as you're like together longer, you also learn like how to and how not to, right? So I feel like we've talked about in the past, Dan can be a very emotional speaker. So I've learned like how to handle those situations. And then like you said, when it's time to just like cut the conversation off, like you go to your area, I'm gonna go to my area. I love you, but we're not doing this right now. Like, because it's just not gonna go well. Like if everyone's just at that point, like trying to top each other or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm not a yeller. So at that point I'm just like, okay, see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, same thing. But we communicate really well. And like you said, I think Dan and I knew each other when we were younger. We have like a friendship that's kind of in there. I consider him my best friend. So we tell each other stuff we don't always want to hear. We are honest with each other. We ask questions. I think that the main thing, honestly, that I'm learning is that like we want the best for each other. So at the end of the day, even if we're arguing, like we don't want to hurt each other. We don't want to like make each other upset, but like you have to be honest with each other at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, same. I mean, like my last relationship, we didn't have like big argument matches often, but there was just no communication. It was almost like argue, move on. Nothing got solved. Nothing got resolved.
Just like brush under the rug in a sense.
Exactly.
Not healthy.
Not healthy. Exactly. And then it makes you just feel like you're unimportant. Like your opinion doesn't matter. You know, so like it's just not healthy communication at the end of the day. So.
And I think there's times where like communication's at a lull. And then there's other times where communication really is at its heightened level. Like there are nights where Steven and I are like sitting in silence. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's nice sometimes.
You know, and then other times I think we talk each other's heads off, like back and forth. Like the other night we, Lily went back with Dan and Camden was just kind of watching his show, and Steven and I got to like talk about work.
Like I have a conversation.
And life and things of that, and vent about those things. And so I think it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
I think it's important to one, know that the longer you're with somebody, that's going to ebb and flow. I think sometimes, and I still battle with this, and this is my own self-insecurity, like the times where we haven't communicated, I'm like,
what's wrong?
We're going to get a divorce. It's going to happen. He's going to just come in one day and be like, I'm done. That day that happens, he comes in with loving arms and we get to actually have those conversations. So I think the longer you are with somebody.
Yeah, so you're more comfortable.
Correct.
Well, and I think it's just like normal life stuff, like you said. Like we have kids, we have jobs, we have other responsibilities. So like we aren't always as open to conversate.
Yep.
For me, I'm not an emotional, like, okay, let me rephrase this. I like to think about things before I speak. So like if Dan comes in upset about something or I'm upset about something, Dan will know I'm upset, but I'm not always going to communicate with him right away, because sometimes I know my emotions are whack.
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure it out what's in here because I can't tell you why I feel the way I feel or anything like that. I might just be having a bad day.
Yeah. I might be hangry.
Exactly. I'll talk to you later when I figure out why I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But I just don't, like, I'm not like an emotional outburst kind of person. Like, I don't yell out of those situations. So I like to think about things. But yeah, I just think that, like, everyone has their way. And, like, Dan and I are learning kind of.
Yeah.
Like, he's more emotional. I'm not more emotional.
Let's find that happy medium.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's healthy because, you know, if he gets to a point, we kind of know, like, okay, we're gonna resume this later.
We're gonna reconvene here later.
Exactly.
So, and Megan and I doing some research on this topic today, there were kind of two things that really stood out to us. One is we encourage you all, and I think this is a good point for myself to know, be curious in your relationship. So when you're talking with your spouse, ask open-ended questions on, you know, don't just say, like, I hope your day was good, period. Like, that doesn't invite your spouse to continue to converse on that conversation. So be curious. Ask those questions, you know, how was your day? How are you feeling today?
Or even, like, on the level of, like, when you are arguing, if something maybe upset the other person, you didn't expect it to upset them, like, why? Like, where did this come from? What triggered that? Why do you feel this way? You know? So, and I think that's really important. Dan and I have conversations sometimes that, like, and I think we all do this. We'll start to say something and then we're like, never mind. Yeah. I'm like, no, tell me. Like, whatever just popped into your brain, tell me.
Yep.
Because it came for a reason. Let's talk about it. And it's usually not even, like, a big thing.
No.
But I think it's important to feel, like, comfortable, like, just go ahead and say it.
Well, and I think when you do have those curious thoughts and you're in that argument, it's important to do it with love. You might be really heated in the moment, and that curt question might have come, and you're like, oh, no, let me not ask that. That's going to open up a whole new can of words. However, if you word it in the right way.
Yeah, it might make things better, honestly.
Right, you know, to your point of, like, well, why are you like that? Sometimes people don't even know the answer.
100%.
I'm learning that now. There are certain things that trigger me, and I'm like, I don't
know
why this triggers me, and I'm sorry you're getting the
short end of the stick in a way.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you know, which then makes yourself curious on, like, gosh, like, why am I so upset?
Let me do some research.
Right. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think it's interesting. And I think that I just would, like, us both having multiple marriages, right? Like, you kind of learn, like, things you can tolerate, things you can't tolerate. I think that, like, at the end of the day, though, like, communication isn't that hard if you, like, care about each other.
Right.
I know that sounds so silly, but I feel like when you want that person to understand you and you want to understand that other person, it gets figured out.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, even if you're mad, you'll talk about it the next day. And it's okay to fight. And this is something I had to learn because to me, fighting was not good. Like, if you fight, we're getting a divorce. We're breaking up. You're leaving. I'm never going to see your face again.
Yeah.
So that was, like, anytime we would have an argument, like, I would go into, like, panic mode. Yeah. And I learned that, like, he can be mad at me but still love me. Yeah. Like, and I was like, this is an interesting thought. I did not know this. Yeah. I'm like, so I can be a straight up, you know what? And then you're still going to love me? Mm-hmm. Sweet. Bet. Exactly. But it's, like, the honesty. Because, I mean, we've even had moments where Dan's, like, upset about something irrationally. And I'm like, you're kind of being an asshole. Yeah. We need to talk later, you know? Yeah. And it's okay to, like, be honest with each other. Doesn't mean you don't love each other.
So Steven and I do a little bit, and we learned this. I don't even know where we learned it from, and it's very helpful. So this is going to be very controversial to marriage is 50-50. In Steven and I's relationship, and I hope you kind of take an inkling from this, marriage is 100-100. Yeah. So Steven and I do a 100% bank. And if we're talking in conversations and someone will be like, well, you haven't, you know, are you okay? You're really quiet. I'm at about 20% today. Yeah. And he's like, you know what? No worries. I'm at about 80 to 90%. I got you. I'll cook dinner. Yeah. You just go take a bubble bath or just sit on the couch and scroll, whatever the case you need to do. That way it gives you both that notice of, like, I'm high on the top of the world right now and I'm not. So what can I do to just give her a break, whatever that case may be? Sometimes we might not even equal 100%. Yeah. And so
we're just doing our best that day.
We are just surviving that day. Tomorrow's a new day. Either not go your separate ways, but like kind of just stick to yourself, stay
Fend
quiet.
for yourself that day.
Everyone go get your own dinner. I'll meet you in bed this evening for bedtime.
I 100% agree with that. Because I think there's a lot of days like where I worked all day. Maybe Dan had a shorter work day. I just don't got it in me today. So like compensating for each other, I think is really important in those moments. Yeah. And I think that comes back to like almost just knowing like you care about each other. Yeah. So like you got each other's back. Like
it's got to come from love.
Yeah. Like, listen, babe, I don't got it in me today. We're either having McDonald's or you're cooking because that's where we're at,
Yeah. So I think, and additionally, the other point that we saw when we were researching this was when you're in those arguments, don't assume. Don't assume either the worst. Don't assume that the other person is out for a vengeance. Don't automatically go to, you did this. Back to our first point, ask those curious questions.
Yeah, find out.
And that's to the partner or the spouse to just hopefully answer truthfully. Unfortunately, not all the time that's the case. But you can't hermit yourself and just assume that the worst is going to happen.
Yeah.
Again, just have those open-ended conversations and go in open-minded versus that closed-mindedness and just assuming that crap's going to hit the fan and you're going to go from there.
Well, and I think like 2 episodes ago now when we talked to Becky, she made a good point, and I never had worded it like this, but when you make those like you statements, it's like fighting words.
Yeah. We knucking and bucking, baby.
Exactly. And I feel like if you go in there like, well, you said or whatever, like pointing a finger, it's just going to escalate things instead of being like, hey, like I feel like, or hey, you saying this has made me feel like this, whatever the case may be. It comes in a little more like
soft and loving.
Yeah. Not
versus like attacking.
Exactly. Yeah.
That makes perfect
So I think
sense.
those are like really good tips too. And maybe just like and I think Dan is really big on this about like how you word things. And sometimes I don't think it's always possible because like in the heat of the moment, you can't always word things correctly.
Or like you word vomit.
Yeah. Or like for me, if I feel like I'm on the spot, I like shut down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got no words for you right now. So but he's really good at wording things in his emotion and I'm not. So like, and I'm learning too, like I have to work on those things. If it's important to him, it needs to be important to me. I need to figure it out. But that also comes back to like, hey, I can't communicate with you correctly currently.
Right.
Can you give me like an hour? Let me figure out how I feel. Because like you said, you don't always know.
Yeah. So I think that kind of brings us to our next point.
Yeah.
Of just, when you can communicate. Sometimes it's not the best time right then and there. I struggle with this one. I'm going to hand it over to Megan on the patientness of
an hour later.
Yeah, an hour later, which those sound really good right now. Great flavors.
Funny, someone at work today was talking about now and later.
Really?
I was like, I love now and laters.
What flavor?
I think she likes the red, the green.
Those are good.
The red, the green.
That was a squirrel moment.
This is something for me that I think about a lot because like I told you, I'm not an emotional reactor to things. Yeah. I process things. I've learned that with Dan and I think a lot of people, it's about timing.
Yeah.
So like if I come in, if he's having a bad day and I want to talk about something, if I try to talk to him on that day, he's not going to give me what I need. So I'm hurting both of us at that point. I might as well wait until he's in a place to be receptive of the information I have or how I feel. Yeah. Right. So sometimes I think it's about being patient. I think it's a balance though, because I feel like we aren't always able to do that.
Right.
Like whether you're in a bad mood or not, I need you to hear what I have to say because you hurt my feelings too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but I think it's like a very delicate balance. And I think that comes with like knowing your spouse or your significant other.
Well, and I think I'm learning that delicate balance. Yeah. And I'm the type of person, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. So if something's bothering me, people close to me know. Like, Megan does it often. Hey, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? Or like...
You seemed weird today when I dropped the kids off. What's on your brain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or, just like, you got silent when we left the other day. Yeah. Are you good? Like, I try not to. Like, I truly do, but some things...
I think it's okay to be like that, though. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, but I really try... I'm not to the extent where, like, events are ruined.
Oh, no.
The kids know, like, things of that sort. But, like, again, like, Megan, Steven, Carissa, my mom, those are probably the top 4 that know something's up. The other day, Steven and I we were on the phone, and I wasn't ready to talk, but he could tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
That's hard. That's really hard.
I said, no, like, I just, we'll talk when you get home. Well, we need to talk. Right. And I'm like, okay. Like, I've tried to put that boundary of like, I'm trying.
Yeah.
But here we go.
I'm trying to figure out how to communicate this.
Correct.
Yeah.
And granted, Steven was very receptive to my thoughts and things of that sort. So it was a great conversation to be had.
I think some of that just comes from anxiety too. Like I get like that, like, and it's not even like a big deal, but in my brain it becomes a big deal because it's been building up, and then you feel like you're gonna fight or this or that's gonna happen, and then it ends up being like nothing, and you're like, that was stupid.
That was too easy.
Yeah. What happened?
Yeah. So I think it's just kind of, like I said, I am learning that one, and I'm learning on like the right time to approach it. Like, especially with our divorce, I will say, like, Steven and I don't argue in front of the kids. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the kids saw a little bit of too much, even though they were very young. Mm-hmm. Dan and I just hash things out when we hash things out. And so I think now that I'm like, okay, this either can wait.
Yeah.
I
think that comes with maturity.
Yeah.
Because you're like, in your 20s, I think you're just a bag of emotion. And it's just like whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah.
It's like a teenager. So I think that just comes with maturity.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
For me, I've just never been that way because I don't like attention. I don't like things being drawn in on me. I don't like the spotlight in that way. So like I've always tried to, like, even when Jeremy and I would have arguments, I tried not to let the kids be exposed to it. I'm sure they still were.
Yeah.
Obviously you can't always prevent everything. But yeah, I think that's totally normal but I think it says something. You and Steven are able to, like, wait. Yeah. You're both annoyed. You don't let the kids see it. You cook dinner. You have a good night. Yep. And then at the end of the night, you're like, listen.
All right,
let's go.
The kids are down.
We got to go.
Yes. No, but I think I give it to Steven, though, too. He's very receptive of my past and my triggers and my anxieties. So I think he just kind of, like, sometimes when he is at fault, he's like, you're right. My bad. And I'm like, I was ready for like a whole thing. To go. I had 5 points, a whole outline, and you're right. I'm right.
Are you sure?
Right. You don't want to come back at this?
Yeah.
So I think it's really funny too when they do say, you're right, or
I understand your point of view,
or I'm sorry. Like, to take that and be like, okay, like, let me breathe. Because first of all,
I need to calm down a little bit.
Correct. I came in here guns a-blazing.
Dukes up.
Yes. And I'm the type of person, I plan out conversations. And so, like, I'm like, all right, if he says this is my rebuttal. If he says that, I need to say this, or maybe I shouldn't say anything.
Oh, you pre-plan the whole conversation.
It's so bad.
Dan's like that too.
Yes. So when Steven's just like, you're right, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh.
Maybe that's why you and Dan, like, when you argued, you butted heads a little bit more, because y'all both pre-plan your conversations.
We each had points to rebuttal with.
He tells me he has the whole conversation before he has it with me.
Yes.
And I'm like, you weirdo. Why would you do that?
Steven,
you don't know what I'm going to say.
Thing. So it's really funny. I do think I'm on the neurodivergent line because I've asked a couple people, I'm like, do you like, I do it all the time. Like, this is a sidebar. Sidebar. Like, I do that often. I think about conversations before I have the conversation.
Does that come from like a, and this is gonna, I don't think I mean it to sound the way it's gonna sound, but like, does it come from like an insecurity in a way because you want to be prepared for whatever answer? Like, you need to have like A, B, C lined up because they might say this.
Yep.
Interesting.
I do it for schoolwork. I do it for work. I do it for
conversations, everything.
The other day, I called Landon and asked him a question. I'm like, okay, if he's in this tone, I need to be like this, and if he's like this, I need to be like that. Short and simple. Don't waste his time. He's like 11. Like,
that definitely seems like an anxiety thing to me.
Like, I'm prepared.
Tell us.
Right. Becky,
are you listening to this? Let us know.
I need some anxiety. Maybe I should set up some better help therapy with Becky.
Maybe she could help with some stuff.
Yes. So
that made me think of something, though, that you said. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Okay.
It might come back to me because we were talking about, I'm trying to think of what, like, it started this conversation, though. Oh, like being prepared for the arguments. Yeah. I don't know what I was going to say now. It's okay. Keep going.
Continue to be prepared.
Continue. Yeah.
I'm a prepared argumenter.
To be determined. Yeah.
But I mean, I think go at it as you feel, but also be cognizant of time, place, location.
I remember now.
Okay.
This is also a sidebar, but this is something I've thought of recently, and this is for like girls listening. Okay, honestly, I keep hearing that people say like, if he wanted to, he would. Right?
Yeah.
If he wanted to, he would.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's so true.
Yeah.
Like
1,000%.
1,000%. Like, arguments aren't fun. They're going to happen no matter what, though. Raising kids isn't always easy.
Yep.
Life isn't fun, but like if the person in your life wanted to help you, be there for you, love you, he would.
Girl.
So,
yes.
so like Dan and I were talking about this today because we've talked about this in the past. I'm not good with emotion. It makes me very uncomfortable. Probably need therapy.
Becky, BetterHelp.com.
BetterHelp. My sister's dog passed away today, kind of unexpectedly. He had to be put down, and I was like crying at work. I was trying not to cry at work because there's people there, and I don't like people. You shouldn't see me cry. That's very uncomfortable.
I'm a Kim Kardashian
So I'm like
crier.
in my office with napkins under my eyeballs like this, and Dan's like, I can't imagine you if a human dies, and I was like, be ready.
Yep.
Just be prepared. I'm gonna be inconsolable.
Yes.
And he's like, you'll be fine. We'll be fine. I'll handle it. And I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
But like moments of life that are hard, like if he wanted to, he would.
Well, and I think, to like elaborate on that, like if you have triggers, anxiety, again, for the females out there, for the male, I mean, for any gender out there, honestly,
for sure.
It can go both ways. You know, if they really care and adore and love you, sometimes those arguments are needed to build that foundation of love.
And that's something I did not know.
No.
I did not learn that until recently.
Yeah.
Like Dan and I realized that all of our arguments end up with we learn something either about each other or about a situation.
Correct.
And we know how to handle them in the future better.
Yep.
And almost like in the sense like you learn each other's triggers. So like, oh, I'm not going to do that because it's not that important.
Yep.
It makes her upset. It makes him upset. I just won't do that anymore.
I do want to add, though, like a PS to that point there of like, if it's the same argument over and over and over again, neither of us are learning anything from that one. I don't think then that's kind of to your point of if he would, he could. If he would, he's not doing it. And vice versa, men. If she's not, she...
Yeah.
That's to the point of like, all right, I don't think this relationship is where it needs to be. Obviously, if you're in a marriage, we hope that that does stay together. But if you're having redundant same conversations and arguments over the same item over and over again, there's something a little bit
there.
deeper.
You're not hearing each other. Yep. Well, I think that kind of feeds into the next point we talked about choosing battles. Yeah. Right? So the kids said this to me the other day. I don't remember what, I think they were picking on each other and they were like, well, Emma said, or Brayden said, or Landon said. And I'm like, don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's irrelevant at this
point. I'm like, you guys are just being annoying to each other. You're not being hurtful or hateful or whatever. Yep. I don't care. So I think it's like the same thing for relationships. Like not everyone, you're not going to be perfect. No. You're going to annoy your spouse.
Facts. You're going to be annoyed by your spouse.
You're going to be annoyed by your spouse, yes. And your children, most definitely. Yes. So like choosing, I guess I would ask you, do you feel like there are certain things that you do that annoy you that you choose not to speak of because it's just not relevant, or how do you handle that?
So again, to the precursor of conversations before I have them, there were things, and I learned this with Dan, and I kind of carried it into my current marriage of like, there are things really that I could nitpick. Mm-hmm. There's no point in nitpicking. If it's not affecting your lifestyle, if it's not affecting your children, if it's really not affecting you deep down your day-to-day and your mental status, it's not worth arguing about.
100%.
If it affects your finances and your income and things of that sort, I think that's something that needs to be brought up. Mm-hmm. I think if it affects your children, their mental state, their emotional state, their physical state, obviously, we're definitely bringing that one up. Yeah.
We're throwing hands at that point.
The spouse is dead. Y'all let us know.
Y'all seen that thing on Instagram where they're like asking those moms from the north? Yes. And they're like, would you commit murder for your children? And they're like,
I'm not sure. I don't know if I
could. Girl, where's the shovel? I'm going to be.
It's going to be a late night.
However, where are we burying the body at?
Y'all let us know. We know people. But to those categories, after that, it's not much of an argument. I think then it transitions to a conversation. Mm-hmm. We'll do dishes. Let's just a simple one that I'm sure everyone in the world has argued about. I need more help with the dishes, or whatever that case may be. That's when it becomes a conversation, and you ask those curious questions. You know, hey, dishes are piling up. Can we tag team this? Are you able to dry and I wash and we can rotate? Is there a day we do dishes?
I was going to say, do you want to do it Monday, Tuesday? I'll do it Wednesday, Thursday. The
Right.
kids do it Friday.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, have those open-ended questions to where it doesn't turn into an argument and it's more of a discussion. And that helps build those, you know, you're not arguing over every single little item. I'm notorious, and I'll even pump myself out there. I leave my clothes everywhere. It's just, I don't know why. It's a horrible habit. I know it's a horrible habit. I just, when I take my clothes off, take my clothes off. There's leggings and underwear and t-shirts and
everywhere.
this, that, and the other, everywhere. I know it's a bothersome thing. Steven doesn't really talk about it, though.
you know what's funny is, so Dan is like a tidy person. And I think that came from their upbringing. Because they probably would get the smackdown if they didn't. But I'm a little flighty sometimes, I'll be honest. And I don't know where it comes from. And there's probably like some sort of diagnosis. But
Flightiness.
Dan jokes and he's like, I know everywhere you've been in our house. Because there's something somewhere in the vicinity of where you were. And it's good intention. I have good intention. I'm like, I picked up this. I'm going to put it away. Oh,
looky there.
squirrel. Like, get distracted.
Yep.
Like, I'm putting Emma's laundry away. I see Landon's shoe on the ground. I pick up Landon's shoe, but Emma's laundry got left behind.
Yeah.
Like, it's it's just happens.
Yeah.
And one of the points I read today when I was doing research is like accepting sometimes people's weaknesses. And that's mine.
Yeah.
It's something I can't change about myself. My brain is wired this way.
Yep.
I don't do it to be annoying or make you pick up after me. And I'll be honest with you, I'll walk back through the house hours later and I'm like,
Dadgummit.
I'm like, you stupid. Like, why would you put that there? And I'll sometimes pick it up. Typically, Dan's up and moving a lot more than me.
Yeah.
He sees it before me.
Yeah.
So that's not my fault. He's faster than I am.
Well, and I think we've when it comes to like housework, which I think is a big argument in most relationships.
100%. That and money is always the top two, right?
And I don't feel like if you have children, your house is a home. It's not supposed to be immaculate.
No, it's never going to be like that.
You know, and I think I'm still coming to those terms, mind you. There are times where I'm like, so, for instance, I've worked from home the past 3 days with 2 kids. Haven't lifted a single item. Tomorrow,
Pointless.
they all go back to school or to
wherever they go.
The sitter. Like, tonight, we're cleaning up
a little bit.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're going to straighten up a little bit. And I don't need all the monster trucks away. I just need them tidied.
Yeah, just in a spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really funny to like have those conversations with your spouse of just like, can you help around the house? Steve and I, we would kind of have debacles of like housework or cleanliness or this and, you know, we made a cleaning chart. Everybody on this day, whether it's the 11-year-old or the 3-year-old, we're doing this section of the house. Give us 10 minutes max to do it.
Yeah.
That way we're avoiding arguments. We
We're
might
all doing it together.
We might have a little huff and puff from the 11-year-old, but it's getting done. Once it's done, it's done. We can move on.
Yeah.
So I think just kind of, you know, choosing those battles, whether they're housework or whether they're finances, just ensuring that you're coming from love and really ask yourself, is this worth an argument? Or can this be a conversation?
Well, and I think and we're kind of doing something similar. I started a checklist for the kids after school.
Yeah.
Because we're at the age where they're home by themselves for a few hours before we get home from work. And it was like a stressor for me to have to call them at 3:30 and be like, hey, I need y'all to do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And it was like, I'm always trying to come up with it. So like at work one day, I just typed out a list and I gave them, and I put even time slots. I'm like from 3:30 to 4:15. I want your lunch boxes on the counter and cleaned out. I want your backpacks put away. I want your shoes put away. You know, all that right after school stuff. Then they get free time for 45 minutes. After their free time for 45 minutes, I want their homework done first, and then I want their chores done. After their chores and homework are done, I want them to either read or go outside for 30 minutes.
Yep.
After that, you can do whatever you want till dinner time.
There you go.
But like some sort of structure to their day, right? And then I have a chore chart that I'm working on. We rotate. 1 week the girls, 1 week the boys do dishes.
Yep.
I'm having a hard time with what they do outside of those weeks though. Like I just feel like
when they're not
there, when the girls are on dishes, what do I have the boys do? Like yet. Like Lily hasn't been doing chores, obviously. Yeah, Lily hasn't been doing chores, obviously, because she's been sick this week. So like,
I can't wait for that girl to go back to school tomorrow.
So yesterday we had all the kids take old washcloths and wipe all the cabinet doors down.
Period.
I was like, run hot
Parenthood
soapy.
at its finest.
I was like, run hot soapy water and wipe them bad boys down because y'all are the ones that mess them up.
I would do floors.
So yeah,
floors bother me.
We sweep every day because of the dog.
Do you?
We have to.
I need to
because
be on
of
your
Lily.
level.
I'll be honest with you. Dan does it 85 to 90% of the time. He's home more than I am, is the only thing. But I do it usually. I try to do it before work if I can, and if not, I do it when I go home. But Dan's usually there before I am. But Lily just sheds so much, and like she gets like not
dog,
the little
not
sorry,
the child.
my Australian Shepherd. And hers like comes off in clumps.
Yeah.
So you have like doggy tumbleweeds in the house that
We
just
have
like
some. I've been looking at them while we're
So we try to like Swiffer
Yeah.
every day. But yeah, I think that whoever's not doing dishes will have like a mopping day.
That's fair.
And then Dan had a good idea of doing baseboards. So we're gonna.
Ooh, I might steal y'all.
We're gonna have them do
Once they
baseboards.
figured that out, send them to my
I'll
house.
let you know.
Yeah,
I'll let
yeah.
you know.
We'll just do a baseboard week.
But this is something that I'm like, I've been a parent for 14 years now. I should have come up with this a long time ago.
Any new parents out there, take this advice. It will save you so much
So
time.
much time. And they're more capable than they want you to think they are.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe we'll have a communication with your children next because
Communication 3.0. We'll go from there.
because I'm learning that they know way more than they think that they want us to think they know.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are capable. But no, definitely like that's this thing. So Dan has no issue executing a plan. He just doesn't want to come up with the plan, right?
That's fair.
He's like, you come up with the plan, I'll execute it. And I'm like, okay. It took me a minute to come up with it. Now I got it. So now it's his job.
All right, Dan, you're up for the challenge.
He gets to execute it now. So like those kind of things too, like playing on each other's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he's not great at coming up with, A, B, C, D. Like this is what you need to do. So I did that part. He just has to make sure it gets done.
Steven and I tag team a lot of things. Like even before you and David came over, like just like, okay, what do you need me to do? I'm like, I'm doing dishes, you dry them. I'm doing the island, you do the dining room table. Like
Well, I think it's more enjoyable when you do stuff together.
it is. We put on music, like we have play music. I don't want to play some music and just like make it light and airy and fun versus more of a chore. So I just, to the main point, choose those battles.
When I feel like sometimes we talk too. Like if we're folding laundry together or something, we'll talk, we'll watch TV together.
Yep.
Like we use that time.
Yeah. Big or small, choose the battles. It will save you so much headache, heartache, tough discussions if you turn it into more of a conversation versus an argument. I think it'll really come from there.
So you mentioned this the other day, and I think it's something that kind of goes with this. Like when to bring things up, right? So not like an hour later thing, but like say it's something little that annoys you. At what point do you decide, okay, this is a conversation we need to have?
If it's little,
Yeah. Like say it's just something that's annoying to you, but it happens all the time.
okay. So if it happens all the time, I need a situation.
I'm trying to think of something that maybe Dan and I have talked about.
Like, is it like chewing?
Here's the
like
thing.
you chew out loud, and I'm like, bro.
I can't think of anything at the moment, but it's fun. It's the reason I think of it is because I'm the kind of person that I'm not going to bring up small things like that, right?
No.
Because it's more so for me, like, I don't want you pointing my things out. So why would I point your things out?
That's why I'm like, I need an example of little things.
Okay, so like, for example, you bring up the laundry thing, like your laundry. Steven's never said anything to you about it? Or like, how is it more of a, or how do you know it's a thing?
Honestly, from Dan.
From Dan, yeah.
It started with Dan,
so
and I
tidy and
made a
annoying.
conscious effort, and then Steven has said something.
Because you were self-conscious about it.
Yes. And so when he said it probably triggered something, and I'm like,
Me.
okay, you've got an issue. Pick your damn clothes up, Kayla. But I still don't. So I don't maybe
know
that's a
either.
Steven question. Like
But I think that's one of those things where you have to just accept
correct.
some things about your significant other that
Yep.
they're not going to do things the way you want them to do.
And I try. Like, I make a really, like, I've been home for the past 3 days. So, yeah, there's a bit of clothes everywhere. I don't know why, because I've been home.
I think
However,
for me, I always put my clothes in the hamper, but there's other things I do that are like that.
oh, no.
Like-
if I strip down on my dresser, clothes. If I go to the bathroom and strip down, clothes. Closet, clothes.
That's where Landon gets it from. It just dawned on me.
Sorry, bud.
It just dawned on me. He had his pants. This is what makes me laugh. He took his pants and underwear off for the shower.
Yep.
All combined still.
Yes.
Like underwear in the pants, inside out, on the ground. And I walked into the living room and I was like, Lana. I was like, get your dirty clothes off the floor. I mean, and I'm talking our bathroom, it's not huge, right? So clothes and hamper were me to table.
Yeah.
Very close together. But he's just not thinking about that.
I have clothes in my closet, which are from me to the table. It's just one of those things
that you just don't connect.
But
we all have our things.
The kitchen looks really nice, though.
So that I'm learning this thing too is we all have our things though. Yeah. Dan wants everything picked up, but it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. Yeah. If I clean, it has to be perfect.
If I stress clean, it has to be perfect.
So and for me, it's a domino effect is what I like to call it. If I do the dishes, then I need to clean out the fridge because there could be dishes in the fridge I need to do. And then if I do that, I have to take out the trash. And then if I take out the trash bin's dirty. It's this weird. So I'm
You're not alone.
I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna touch the dishes because I'm gonna be here till midnight.
Well, that's why I do a room at a time. That's why we did that checklist. I'm pointing y'all can see my kitchen.
I can see
the checklist right there. But it just literally
makes you focus on one area.
Bedrooms, we're dusting.
We could do a whole episode on house cleaning.
We have talked about house cleaning a lot. Anyways, choose your battles. Next point
is what we're saying.
Yes.
Coming back to this because this is a whole thing for me.
Maybe we'll get a professional house cleaner in here to help us.
If y'all start following us, we could get professional house cleaners and organizers with all those bins and labels.
Yes. I bring you so much joy. Anyways, next topic, you can tell we've been in a bottle of wine. Honesty is the best policy.
If your significant other is honest, then you don't need to worry about how dirty they are, is what I'm picking up from this.
Period. Dirty little dirtiers.
No, I think this is a super important point because I think that once honesty is broken, even if you try, you can't reconcile it. No. That trust is gone. It's gone. To me.
Yes.
Personally.
Well, and I think this amounts to little white lies as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe, a stupid little white lie. Just take the trash out. I know so-and-so, the trash people are going to be here to, yeah. And you didn't. That's so minute.
Why?
Just take the freaking trash out and don't lie about it.
Yeah. But you're not a kid. You're not going to get in trouble.
It's something as small as that can continue. And it always reminds me, if anybody grew up on VeggieTales, the lying episode where he really grew into a really big giant because he kept lying and it was a whole thing. Great episode. You should check that VeggieTales episode out. VeggieTales. Such a good one. Larry the Cucumber.
Larry the Cucumber.
Shout out Larry. But anyways, it's just those little white lies that to us as females, I can't talk amongst men. It's
plants a seed. An evil seed.
That grows and it grows quickly and then it makes us second guess every little single thing you say.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean, I feel that's at the end of the day, that's all there is to it. There's no reason to lie. And I guess if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, if you feel like you need to lie, are you with the right person? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I just don't get the point.
I don't either.
I don't get the point.
That's the one thing. I can forgive a lot of things. Lying,
not one of them.
I don't like it.
No, me neither.
And so it's just the fact of even if somebody truly hurts you, at least you can appreciate their honesty as a person. So, whether that's a slew of items.
I just feel you have respect for that person though at that point. You might be mad, your feelings might be hurt. It's not hard, it's not easy for them to say that to you though, and at the end of the day, you're gonna be like, okay, well, I don't like it, but I appreciate you telling me the truth.
Yeah, and I think it's little things to big things. Just honesty is the best policy. I feel like this is the shortest point in our research here, but it's such a simplistic point. Don't lie to your spouse or your partner. Don't beat around the bush.
Even if it seems insignificant. Because I feel even though in that moment you're oh, well, I was just trying to protect your feelings, it's not going to come out like that in the end. It's going to look like you were hiding something.
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's going to also plant that seed and it's going to grow and then you're going to have a real issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, shortest point probably, but most important one is just never to lie. And even if you feel like you're doing the right thing,
you're not.
You're not.
And you have to think too, like to the point of like hold on, I gotta put this into words. To your point of, well, I was trying to protect you. You're actually harming that person more by lying.
100%.
So now not only did you hurt them by what you did, big or small, you also added that cherry on top by lying to them about it.
Well, something about that makes me angry in the sense of like, you didn't respect me enough to give me the option to make the decision, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, so whatever happened, right?
Yep.
Like a girl at work hit on me or whatever, and you don't tell me that story, then it ends up looking like you lied. But like, you didn't respect me enough to tell me the truth. And then now I feel like there's a reason you lied to me about it, you know?
Really good example. And that's kind of where I was going with that. And I just lost my train of thought.
For me, it's like the respect thing. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but
the respect would be if, like, okay, say an opposite sex or same sex coworker hit on you, and you didn't tell that spouse, and you go to a Christmas party.
Yes, and then it comes up,
and then you're like, wait a minute, blah 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 blah. She's a little flirty. You could have get completely harmless of like, oh, someone was a little flirty. And you're like, yeah, she's been hitting on me for the last year. And you're like, I'm sorry.
Squeeze me. Yeah.
What?
When it would have, at that point, like if you would have told, it would have been like,
it would have been kind of comical.
Joke. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there goes Lucy. Like,
exactly.
Floozy Lucy. Like,
yeah.
So I think it's just really important, even those small details to where maybe you don't think it's important or you do think it's important. And Sloozy Lucy, I'm sorry for any Lucy's out there. Yeah, that's just kind of the name we're going with right here. Even if you're like, hey, Lucy, you know, rubbed my arm while she was looking over this report the other day. Like, okay, listen, either you need to tell Lucy, thank you for being honest with me, but like, good luck, you're married to me.
Yeah.
Because then it builds that kind of boundary and trust between you and your spouse of like, okay, Lucy.
Well, and knowing that even in those really awkward, weird moments, you'll be honest. Like,
correct.
That's important to know too. Because it doesn't matter how great your relationship is, weird things are going to happen.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Awkward situations are going to come up, and for you to feel like, and I just feel like that comes from like faith in your relationship and like when we talked about being friends.
Yeah,
like I would 100% called in and be like, you guess what happened?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
And what's really funny is I just remembered this story. Steve and I, we were early dating. Like we weren't even boyfriend girlfriend, like official.
Just
we were
seeing each other.
Yeah. A ex-girlfriend reached out to Steven and was like, hey, I'd love to grab a drink. Yeah. And he didn't have to tell me that.
Yeah.
We weren't anything official. We weren't, but he did. And to me, that spoke volumes of him as a character. And it didn't bother me. I'm like,
funny.
Okay, that's cute.
Yeah.
Like, next. Been there, done that. No, thank you. But like it built that trust between Steven and I after the hurt that Dan and I went through of just like
being honest.
Like, okay, that's what honesty is about. Like, thank you. Like, you didn't have to tell me that. And he's like, I know, but like I just felt the need to. And I'm like, I appreciate that. And I think that speaks volumes to yourself and your partner as like that.
Like their character.
Yes, their character, that trust boundary of like, I don't have to worry about
which
like.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Worry is a big thing.
Very big thing. Well, and like you said, I think it just builds trust, and like trust is, I think, the foundation of all of it. Because if you don't have that, it's all pointless.
It's going to crumble down.
Did we miss any points? Do you feel like there's anything else to talk about?
I think those were... I applaud ourselves. And I think those were really great communication points to have with your significant other. I encourage you, I mean, maybe some people aren't, maybe your spouse isn't a podcast listener. Yeah. But just to maybe play this episode with your significant other to open up those curious questions with each other of just like, what are your thoughts on this? And, you know, just kind of opening up that conversation and maybe building a great foundation for you in your significant other.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you touched on, but maybe go over a little bit more, is being like sensitive to, like, we talked about, like, we both had past relationships, right? And so we both have things that have happened that have caused our brains to kind of go down paths they shouldn't. Being sensitive to those things, you know, and being understanding. And I get, like, you can't let it slide for the rest of your relationship. But in the beginning, hold it over their head either. Yeah, give that time for transition, because I think it's going to take a while to build the trust to where those thoughts don't come anymore, you know? And you get to a point where you're like, I don't have to worry about that. Like, at the end of the day, they're going to tell me, or, you know, whatever it is.
And I think it builds that, again, that foundation of trust, and whether that hurt, habit, or hang up happened 3 years ago, 12 years ago. For the person who's been through that hurt, express that in the beginning. Honestly, like, hey, I would love to have this relationship with you. I've been hurt in the past. Like, I'm not entertaining that. Like, if this is something serious that you're willing to pursue, I am too. However, please be cognizant of my triggers.
Well, I think that comes from, like, a place of honesty too. Because, like, I'm sure you and Steven had that conversation. Yeah. I had that conversation with Dan in the beginning too. Like, hey, this is what happened in my relationship. This is, you know, and it was, I don't think it came up until something occurred, like a conversation that brought it up. But I was like, listen, this is why I reacted that way. I apologize. It's not your fault. You didn't cause it, but I appreciate, like, you being sensitive to this
X,
happening.
Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Yep. And to the point of, like, don't let that linger forever.
No,
I'm not gonna say, like, I have trust issues, like, just from my past, and so there are times where I completely trust Steven. There's times when we go to a bar and he's talked to a bartender a little too long, and we're in a really big argument. And I'm like, you talked to her for long story, quite comical. That's for another episode. But just...
It's funny because while you were talking about the last thing we talked about, I was thinking about how you're like, he told me. So he didn't have to tell me. And I'm like, unless he told you to cover up the fact of the things he didn't tell you.
See? Triggers.
And I'm like, shut up.
Either way, I think this was so much of a fun episode for us to be able to share kind of those communication efforts between yourself, your spouse, your children. That's going to be a fun episode. We need to have maybe a guest child.
Maybe. The kids would like that.
Talk about communication.
Well, I think we're learning too, because I think we grew up in an age of when our parents didn't communicate with us directly.
Girl, no.
Like, I'm going to say that.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, guys. But I think it was just like the way they were raised. Their parents didn't tell them anything. It was like, shut up and do what I say.
Right. Because I said so.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to find a balance between be respectful and do what we tell you, but...
You've got an opinion.
Your opinion matters.
If it's a valid opinion, 100%.
And if you say it to me respectfully.
Yeah.
That's always been my thing. I didn't want Braden and Emma to think that they're going into a world with they don't matter, you know? So voice your opinion. Stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
So figuring that out after being raised the way we were, we're still figuring it out. So
we appreciate you hanging out with us this February. It's been fun.
Yep.
Make sure to like, share, comment, etc. Share the love. See what I did there with the Valentine's Day. Share the love also with our sponsor, Brooke Roden at Remy Realty. Keep in mind, she keeps her integrity before her commission. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram. She's just a phone call or text away. That's at Brooke Roden Realtor. Make sure to check her out. I probably butchered that, so we're just gonna try again one more time.
At Brooke Roden Realtor.
Period. So, thanks for hanging out with us this February. We've got so much stuff in store for March. I'm super excited.
Spring break is coming.
Yes, baby.
Warmer weather.
I'm tired of this cold weather.
I'm getting there. My mental health needs some sun.
I need the boat. I need a White Claw, and I need the sun.
I'm in
a one piece. She has not reached her goals, so that's okay. Maybe I'll be skinnier in March. Bye, y'all.
Peace.